Welcome to your first bonus episode of You Make It Happen. Had a few requests for this topic, and I am delivering. Breakups and how that relates to the resilience that you can cultivate from traveling. So, strap in and settle in for a listen. Most of us have been through at least one breakup, if not our fair share, and if you haven't, then I am envious. So I remember my therapist asked me in the midst of my last relationship, which she knew was not a good fit, if I could start noticing what I was willing to put up with, what I wasn't willing to put up with, and what I was learning about myself. She noted that the guy I was dating was a bit of a narcissist, like moderately narcissistic, not like a ridiculously malignant, abusive narcissist or anything. There was some gaslighting and some subtle psychological abuse and some public humiliation at the end, which my friends were privy to and witnessed to and all that. But for the most part, it was pretty subtle, and there weren't a lot of red flags in the beginning. And I look back and, hindsight being 2020, thinking, okay, I should have seen this and I should have done better and I should have known better and I should be healed by now, because this is, like only 6 months ago. So I was trying to figure out what my therapist meant at the time. Like, what do I need to learn about myself and what are you talking about? And then I looked back and I was like, oh, I totally get it. I am learning about myself in this relationship, what I will and will not tolerate. And this is helping me prepare and making me better for the next relationship to learn what I will and will not put up with, because I am becoming more secure and I put up with less and less bullshit and less mistreatment and less anxiety and less insecurity and less avoidant behavior, because I take one look at that and I go the other direction. And it's not like I, wave a giant flag and say, I'm out, motherfucker, I can't handle this is some bullshit, and throw a big flag down or, make a big deal about it. I just politely excuse myself and say, no, thank you. I mean, that's how securely attached people do it. They take one look at something that isn't healthy and say, no, thanks, and move along. And just to be clear, if you haven't read the book Attached, a secure attachment style can date any attachment style. And if you are secure, you know what I'm talking about. You can date avoidant, you can date anxious, you can date fearful avoidant, aka disorganized. And it doesn't mean that you're not capable of having a relationship with any of those attachment styles. However, you also still get to have your healthy boundaries. And depending on that person's childhood wounds and where they're at in their healing process, what they will and will not tolerate individually is up to that person. It's going to determine whether or not it's going to work for you. So, also, just as a side note and a related aside, if you find yourself dating a narcissist or what you think is a narcissist, or you're married to a narcissist or a relationship or whatever, or you're interested in dating a narcissist, or you think they might be a narcissist, there is a little mini book recommendation I'll make here for you from the book is called It's Not You by Dr. Amani Durvasula, a PhD. It's a book about narcissists, and it was very validating because I hadn't had any dating history or interaction with anybody that was narcissistic in the past. And I guess it was a testament to my growth. I know that sounds really counterintuitive, but I thought this person was secure when I first started dating them. They tested as secure. Note to self, sending people those attachment style tests online and having prospective dates fill those out, absolutely worthless, because those are self-reported. So anybody that's filling those out is going to maybe answer what they want to say, like what they think you want to hear or what they think they're supposed to say, not necessarily what the truth is. So, for example, those tests would be absolutely useless, if not worse than useless. They would actively hide the person's personality disorder or issues with somebody that's sociopathic, psychopathic. You get the idea. Or narcissistic. Yeah, personality disorders, antisocial personality disorder. You get the idea. So I decided, okay, maybe this isn't the best course of action for potential dates. And so I just stopped doing that. And I was like, okay, just get a good frame of reference. And since this is an episode about breakups, I'll give you guys some tips in general for determining whether somebody has a secure attachment style. Like, ask them, how do they handle conflict in a relationship? What was your last relationship? Like, how did that end? And what did it teach you about yourself? And that one I actually got from another podcaster, which I really admire and adore. And I appreciate the fact that it's insightful, and somebody who is avoidant is going to start, maybe blaming their ex, or not even going to want to talk about that. Or, ugh, I can't handle conflict, I walk away, or that's too much, or how dare you ask about that. Anybody is going to get defensive or shaming or upset or avoidant just from that question. There's a red flag right there. Like, that's somebody who's insecure. So, I mean, you can tell a lot just by asking a couple of, relatively simple questions, like how do you handle conflict? How do you fight with your partner? How do you resolve conflict? Like, if you're angry at bedtime, do you go to bed angry? That sort of thing. So there are different ways to figure out if somebody has a secure attachment style. And it's a few quick questions. It's relatively simple. I'll get into it a little bit more in another episode, perhaps if there's enough requests for that. So anyway, circling back around, breakups are hard. Surviving alone, adjusting to being single again, and seeing yourself as worthy of love again, it's hard. And especially it's hard adjusting your life to the absence of that person, especially if that person was a prevalent source in your life, like if they were your best friend or if they were a frequent source of contact. I'll give you an example. My last relationship, I had a frequent texting relationship, and in retrospect, that was actually unhealthy because texting is not a good form of communication. It's not a healthy medium. It should be, and now I firmly believe, especially as far as dating goes, texting is for logistics. Like, when are we going to see each other? When are we going to FaceTime? When are we going to talk on the phone? When are we going to make plans? Like, this is for setting up logistics and not a conversation. And this is not, sexting, or this is not for the dopamine hit. This is not for anything else, because texting can lead to a false sense of intimacy, because you have no idea who that person is that you're texting unless you already know that person in real life, because you're building up some sort of narrative and some sort of image of this person in your mind, of somebody you've never even met, maybe, or maybe you have met them. Maybe you've had 1 or 2 dates, or maybe you've known them for a couple of weeks, or maybe you've even known them for a couple of months. You still don't know this person. It's only been a couple of months. It's only been a couple of dates. It's only been a couple of weeks. It's not enough time. Talk to me after 9 months of getting to know this person. And I don't mean like chatting once a week. I mean talking at least once a week. I mean a date at least once a week. I mean, so there's a healthy, steady pace for relationships. And don't get me wrong, I was super anxiously attached not that long ago, and I am so guilty of taking relationships at an unhealthy, unsteady pace. Like, I wanted to see the person I was dating 3, 4, 5 times a week, and I was dissatisfied with anything less. Now I understand that, especially in the beginning of a relationship, that it's not healthy to move faster than seeing the person once a week, talking every few days on the phone or on FaceTime. Because again, text creates this unsustainable narrative in your head of who this person is, because you're just filling in the blanks. Your brain is filling in the blanks. It's just creating this fictional character of who you want this person to be, because there's no tone and there's hardly any context in text for you to have additional information. So let's say somebody sends you the text, good morning. Is it good morning with an exclamation point? Is it good morning with a period? Does it just say good morning? Why does it just say good morning? Oh, did they say good morning to you yesterday? Why didn't they say good afternoon? Well, did they say good night to you? Oh my God. And here goes the rabbit hole, right? I know you anxious attachers know what I'm talking about. So it can be interpreted negatively, or it can be interpreted, oh my God, they said good morning. I think he loves me, or vice versa. She said good morning. She is way too needy. She is all over me. I can't handle it. This is too much. Or the other way around. She said good morning. She must love me. She is my everything. I can't live without her. I don't know what I would do without her. She loves me. She said good morning to me. I mean, it's just, you take this relatively innocuous text message. I'm just using good morning as an example, and you fill in the narrative around it because you're insecurely attached. And that's okay, because this is, why we're here, is to get better and do the work and become more secure. And there's no such thing as like entirely secure. So let's put this little myth to bed right now. Attachment is on a spectrum. So there's no such thing as entirely anxiously attached or fully avoidant or nothing but dismissive avoidant, fearful avoidant, or disorganized attachment, disorganized avoidant. I mean, there's just no such thing as 100% any attachment. Attachment is on a spectrum. So we all swing, and the spectrum is relatively fluid. Like, anxious attachers have moments of avoidance. Avoidant attachers have moments of anxiety. Fearful avoidants, who are in that the smaller 3% of attachment style systems, who are both anxious and avoidant, have stronger moments of anxiety and stronger moments of avoidance. And maybe this person A, has more avoidance overall than person B, who's got the same attachment style but is much more anxious than they are avoidant, but still has plenty of bouts of avoidance. I've dated a couple fearful avoidants who is just, talk about a roller coaster, dating somebody with an attachment style of fearful avoidant. Whew, it's a headache and a nightmare. Once you figure out somebody is on that attachment spectrum, it's the worst one. And not to label them as bad or good, because they aren't necessarily. And it's the worst one if you're dating that style, especially if you aren't that style. And I was still a little bit too anxious at the time to handle that. So I digress. And there I go off again on another tangent. But circling back around, it can be difficult. Yeah, moving on from a breakup and seeing yourself as worthy of love again. And attachment is on a spectrum. So I can't tell you how many times I look back at, like, I don't know, fuckboy relationships, and I was just like, oh, you're done. You're done. Let me write you off, because I want nothing to do with you ever again, because I'm not going to be rejected by you. I will reject you before you can reject me. And just write people off. Delete, cancel, block, whatever you want to call it. I guess it's called cancel culture now. I'm in my 40s. I don't know what is cancel culture. Just blocking, deleting, writing people off is what it's known to me as in my generation, perhaps. I don't know. I'm my own unique generation. Who fucking knows at this point? But that was my way of avoiding vulnerability. And I didn't realize that that's actually an insecure attachment trait. That is avoidance. And that's not anxiousness, because anxiousness is pull you closer, don't leave me, come back, don't abandon me. Whereas avoidance is I don't think so. You're not going to leave me because I have left you. If I smell the slightest hint of a whiff of anxiety, of perspiration, the tiniest air of you might not be interested in continuing with this conversation with me for the rest of your life, then I will never speak to you again. I mean, that's how quickly I would write somebody off that I was dating. And that was just as unhealthy as being anxious and needy in the other end of the spectrum. So anyway, I saw this thing on social media. This is related. I know this is me jumping around a lot, but this is related. I saw this thing on social media the other day, and it sparked me. I liked it. And they had the examples, and this is related to breakups. And it says the hurt self. And the quote was, "Damn, they moved on like I didn't even matter. The healing self. I mattered so much. Them moving on quickly is not a reflection of my worth. I can sit with this pain, and I can hurt and allow myself the time that I need to heal. I remind myself I'm exactly where I need to be. And it is often a telltale sign of a lack of healing and insecurity for someone to jump into something new immediately. This now evokes feelings of empathy on my part instead of sympathy or anger like it used to." So a lot of that I added because that's my experience and stuff that I thought of. And then another example was the hurt self says, "I replay our breakup over and over, and I wonder what I could have done differently." But the healing self says, "Rumination is escaping. I can learn to sit with discomfort, and eventually this pain will transform into gratitude." And absolutely. I mean, having my perspective reframed from transforming myself into the healing self, I can tell you the latter, the healing self versions, are true for me now, which is kind of amazing when you think about it. I mean, I'm just saying. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. I kind of like that saying. Yep, I said it. Also, an awesome song when we're talking about breakups or just learning how to love yourself is Love Me More by Sam Smith. And don't get me wrong, there's lots of songs I like, and I'm not like the biggest Sam Smith fan or anything. I just happen to like this particular song because it talks about like him crying, not crying himself to sleep at night, but like being unhappy overall. And then saying, you know, I sat with pain, I sat with misery, and it didn't hurt quite as badly anymore. And then I learned to love myself just a little bit, because it's not like an overnight process. And that's why I love that song, because it was just really inspiring. And it kind of, I think the first time I heard it, it brought a tear to my eyes. So I really like that. All right. So I know this is going to be a little bonus short episode, so I got to start to wrap it up. And let me bring it full circle here. The bad news is you can't wave a magic wand and get more happiness and joy in your life, and especially when it comes to breakups. But the good news is happiness is a skill, and you can train and learn to cultivate it. It's like a muscle. It's like going to the gym and working out. You can learn it, you can train it, and you can get better at it. You can cultivate it. So really quick, how does shame resilience relate to travel, and how do breakups relate to travel? And it's just that they all tie in together. So you get shame resilience from new experiences. You get shame resilience from traveling, from seeing new places, from trying new things, from trying new foods, from just experiencing new cities and cultures and people, just doing new stuff, basically builds shame resilience in you. So traveling is one of the best ways to do that. And in my opinion, it's one of the most fun ways. I like to travel internationally, and I like to do so on the cheap. Google Flights, Kayak, or some of the resources I use. No, these are not paid promotions. It's just some of my favorite resources. And no, I didn't forget the travel tips. I'm going to give you 2 travel tips in this episode, in this bonus episode. Make sure you can do laundry. Because as I mentioned in an upcoming episode, in episode 2, packing light is the way to go. Stick with a carry-on, which, spoiler, that's what's happening in episode 2. There's a little spoiler for you. Doing laundry is critical to being able to packing light and packing a carry-on only. Also, little travel tip number 2, personally, and this is, again, these are my personal recommendations, I prefer Google Maps over Apple Maps. I have found Google Maps to be far more reliable, consistent, and updated on a regular basis comparatively to Apple Maps. I don't use Apple Maps at all. I've had it take me to the wrong destination numerous times. I've had it give me bad directions numerous times. I've had it give me lengthy, taking me the long way numerous times and taking me just a stupid route more than a few times. So I just do not use Apple Maps because I think it's shite overall. All right, well, let's wrap it up here then. As always, thank you for listening. If you think the show is worth it, please rate it 5 stars on Apple or Amazon or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're interested in You Make It Happen swag, message me on Facebook Messenger, and I have shirts and sweatshirts and whatnot for sale. And they're pretty cool, if I do say so myself. I'll figure out how to post the pictures on them. I'll post the pictures of them on the Facebook page so y'all can see what I'm talking about for sale. I also host trivia in person in Tacoma at Doyle's at 8 p.m. every Thursday for the foreseeable future. So come see me at Doyle's. And as always, work your shit out, not on other people. And we'll see you next time.